And a parent is going to be overwhelmed with that answer, right? And so what I would encourage is start having uncomfortable conversations with some of your closest friends or family members. Like, have you done this before? Have you dealt with this before? My son or daughter is not talking. Who can I speak to? In my case, I found out about speech therapy because I had just a very open and frank conversation with a coworker of mine who was actually sending his daughter to Holland in Capel, where my daughter goes.
Welcome to DFW Grit. I'm Dr. James Taylor, and I'm your host, and this is more than just a podcast. We dive into the stories of the movers, the shakers, the small business owners, the entrepreneurs, right here in the DFW Metroplex. This is your home for authentic, real stories that prove what happens when you don't back down. Let's get to work. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of DFW Grit. As always, I'm your host, Dr. James Taylor. Today, with me, Bryce Moen, one syllable. That's in the correct. Last name.
Correct. Thank you.
During your 9 to 5, you're an accountant, but it's not that brought you in here. ChandlerSpeaks. Now, normally what I do, I want, I'll do a little research and everything, kind of go through, so I have a short bio to give. But like this seems like a really cool endeavor, and I would like to actually put all the weight on you, and I don't think you would mind, dude. What is ChandlerSpeaks? How did it start? Where did it come from? Why are you doing it?
It started all the way back in 2011. So I was in graduate school at the time, getting my MBA from the University of Texas. And we had a professor who said, if I'm going to teach you to be a capitalist, you should also think of being a philanthropist.
All right.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So right after that, it was all gung-ho. Like, I'm going to go join a nonprofit board and really get after it. And so unfortunately, to get on a number of nonprofit boards, usually is a check donation is associated with it, which is a great thing. But I was like, hey, I have a new baby, just graduated grad school. Like, cash flow is not at a premium right now. So from there, the idea just kind of always stayed in the back of my mind. And I had the benefit of going to work. I work in oil and gas now. And so I ran the family office, accounting for a very wealthy individual who had a family foundation as well.
Okay.
So I was able to see the inner workings of how the family foundation operated, how to set up the tax structure. So I gained a lot of knowledge in that regard. And then fast forward to my second child being born. Her name is Chandler, and she was born in 2014. And thankfully, I had a son who was older, who was talking much more at the age of 1 than Chandler was. So when I got to 1 year old, I was like, hey, this doesn't make much sense. She's only saying the word mom. She should be further along in her speech development protocol. So had a number of conversations with neurologists, doctors, audiologists, and figured out it wasn't a brain function issue, wasn't a hearing issue. Okay. It was a speech development issue, and that involves a number of different areas. But long and short of it is she had an expressive speech disorder, which is you can think what you want to say, but you can't physically get the words out of your mouth. So, and from there, the only real option you have is private speech therapy, which is not covered by health insurance in most instances.
Really?
So,
of course not. Why would it be?
Yeah.
Here's a necessity.
Exactly.
You don't need to worry about that.
Exactly. There's one specific code, and unfortunately, I can't remember the insurance code, unfortunately. But so on average, speech therapy costs $150 to $165 an hour. And when your kids are younger, repetition is the most important thing, right? Muscles, the brain function. So on average, you're taking them to speech therapy 2 or 3 times a week, depending upon the severity of their situation. So on average, it can cost you anywhere from, $800 to $1,000 a month in cash out of pocket. Now, I've been blessed in my career to, progress to the point where I can afford private speech therapy without it breaking the bank, if you will. But I always use the example of if I've got 2 parents that are teachers and cash flow is at a premium, then it's going to be very difficult for them to afford,
Yeah.
but essentially 2 additional car payments to send your child to speech therapy. So, and so with that thought process in mind, I was like, this is probably the opportunity where I could actually go after and focus on trying to get this up and running. And so from there, sat at my kitchen table in 2019 and kind of just figured out how to do it along the way. I mean, to use your grit phrase there.
Thanks for the tie-in.
Yeah, it was. Now, granted, there was some knowledge working in the background, but it just took a lot of just rolling up your sleeves and figuring out along the way, just bumps in the road. And so from 2019 onward, we have been going forward. And to get it up and running was a lot of what I would call negotiations. If you've obviously set up your company, so there's a lot of elements involved in terms of legal documents, website, branding, and so there's a lot of expense involved in that regard. And so thankfully, I knew a lot of people that were attorneys or brand executives that were willing to donate their time, as opposed, so I didn't have to pay a bunch of those monies to get it up and running. And then from there, really focused on establishing relationships with the speech community. Originally, we were going to go into the school districts and say, okay, do you have kids in need? We'd like to pay for private speech therapy. And unfortunately, that's not a viable option because school districts have actually been sued in the past when let's say a speech pathologist says, we recommend that you should probably see private speech therapy on top of the school services. Then families have said, oh, by the way, you said that you should do this, you need to pay for it. So it's been very, very frustrating in that regard. So from that degree, then I went to specifically my daughter's speech pathologist and said, hey, how can I get affiliated with the right individuals here to get the name out of ChandlerSpeaks? So my daughter's speech pathologist went to the Collier School of Communication Disorders, which is up at UTD in Richardson, and they said form a partnership there. And so that was our first, what I call operating partner, where we set up a ChandlerSpeaks fund where we raise monies donated to our ChandlerSpeaks fund at the school. And then for the Collier Center, they have a number of kids who, again, are from, we call them financially disadvantaged youth, is the phrase we use at ChandlerSpeaks. And so they will go apply for reduced speech cost services. And so our fund covers that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it started in 2019 is when you sat down at the table.
Yep, exactly.
And it's like, okay, here's my philanthropic goal.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Dude, that's wild.
Yep.
So let's start. Where does the money come from?
Okay.
Just like straight donations, or
so it's straight donations. We have, I would say, it comes from a lot of business contacts that I have initially working in oil and gas. I've had a lot of exposure to what you would call higher net worth individuals. I was able to reach out to them and get the word out, and they're looking for charitable donation avenues from a tax deduction perspective, which is fine. And so from there, I was like, well, the other ways you have to do it is that I found to be successful is let's get it to an event. So I have an annual poker tournament every year that raises money. This year we just raised over $25,000 at the tournament.
At a poker tournament?
That's right.
Damn.
Yeah. So now that's 6 years in the making. So, the first one was 8. The next one was 12. And this year finally grew up to $25,000.
Dude, that's wild. How many participants in the tournament?
This year we had about 100 players.
That's cool.
So, so you, like any event, you raise money from sponsorships, and the phrase that I like to use is when you're raising money for charity, if you're doing an event, obviously focus on people. If you focus on the mission and then the event where you can get people that may not necessarily be 100% affiliated with the event, they can come in and play at the event and raise money in that regard. So that's our main fundraiser throughout the year. And then it's a lot of hustling, I'll say, cold calls, reaching out to people, trying to expand the universe, applying for grants. And so there's no real secret sauce other than just being able to ask for money
Yeah.
and get used to hearing people say no,
Yeah.
and taking that knowledge that you've gained and developing a real, true business development aspect.
So
to
is it just you and your wife running the show?
So we have 5 other board members,
Okay.
and so it's a combination of different folks from different industries. One's an attorney, one's a managing partner at a private equity firm, one's a marketing executive, and another one's a geologist and a life coach. So really trying to build out your board in different aspects and different skills and different ethnic backgrounds. Just again, trying to expand the donor universe,
right?
Like a lot of other business generating or income generating activities, whether it's profit or non-profit, it becomes a numbers game.
Yeah.
As quickly as you can get money out, then the message out, then at some point it'll resonate with somebody that has
just how many people can you meet, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So where do the weird question, where do the kids come from? So is it just straight through UTD right now, or?
So I have 3 operating partnerships. I have UTD, and then I have the Holland Foundation in Coppell. Similar situation there, where they have a number of financially disadvantaged children that need private speech therapy, and so we've set up a fund with them. And the process is pretty simple. They do the verification of the income challenges that they have, and then for both Holland and UTD, if they go through their application process and show that they don't have the financial wherewithal to meet the services, then they'll use the ChandlerSpeaks fund. Okay. We also have a third one. We just started over at TCU in Fort Worth. They have a communications disorder school where they teach speech pathologists, and they offer a lot of discounted services to children of Fort Worth that can't afford it. And so we have a ChandlerSpeaks fund that offers the bridge funding there as well. And then we also do some direct with contract speech pathologists. So a family will come to me and I'll say, hey, we heard about ChandlerSpeaks. How do I get affiliated with the program? Mm-hmm. And so I will reach out to the speech pathologist and say, okay, one, I need you to verify that this individual has a speech development issue and that they're seeing your services for various HIPAA regulations. All I can verify is that, okay, I can verify that they need the service. And then they go through and the application process, very, very straightforward. Show me a tax return, show me a personal financial statement that shows that based on your AGI and your asset holdings, you're not going to be able to afford consistent speech therapy on a go-forward basis. And so using that, then they become what I call part of the ChandlerSpeaks family, where once you get them in the door at a younger age, you want to try to keep them in the program as far as the development is concerned. Similar to chiropractic or any other type of therapy, the repetition is the key. So it doesn't make much sense for if you had a child in need to say, hey, can you cover 2 sessions? I'd rather have someone come in at 6 and care for them all the way to the age 18.
So like just for someone who's unfamiliar, I guess, like what's the best way to put, like what kind of disorders, I guess, for lack of a better word, would someone seek the help of a speech pathologist
if they have
or speech therapist?
Apraxia is one. It's a neurological disorder that affects the delivery of speech. There could be muscular issues around the mouth where they may have chewing problems. They may have speech delivery problems. Autistic children a lot of times have speech development issues that take place. And stuttering is a very common one where they see speech therapy. And then expressive speech disorders is kind of a general term.
Okay.
But the challenge with speech therapy is, and I'm sure you've seen it similar in your chiropractic practice, there's a combination of art and science.
Fair.
Right? So this individual could respond great to this type of therapy, or the individual may need a different type of therapy, but have the same quote unquote medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
So And that creates the insurance issue, right? Where it's not a specific, like this person went in for a specific procedure that can be documented that's the same across a standard subset of a population.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and that's kind of in your examples there too. That's kind of what I was wondering, because in my head I was thinking like, okay, well, autistic kids, generally speaking, speak late. I don't know if that was if a speech therapist was a proper avenue, or it was something different. Or, I mean, hell, it's probably a whole team of people.
Yeah,
just speech pathologist just is on that team.
That's right. So an autistic child will have an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, a behavior therapist. So there's just a lot of service avenues there.
What about things like cleft palates and stuff? Is that?
I would say that probably is associated with it. I'm not too familiar with it because I haven't had any patients deal with that. But I would imagine if you do the surgery to correct the cleft palate, there might be some speech development issues in that regard. But I'd have to research that to give you a specific answer. Also, there's social interaction elements to it as well. Like when I was a child, I had speech therapy issues, and it's not that I couldn't talk, it's that I wouldn't talk. A lot of times there's social anxiety that comes along with the development of speaking in children. So there's
interesting
that piece of it as well.
So that would fall under that umbrella then?
That's right.
That's interesting, because like I had well, I'll call her a cousin-in-law, basically. My wife's cousin. It was the weirdest thing. Like, when we first met, like she was younger and but she never smiled in pictures. Just straight face, just wouldn't smile. And it was just, we asked, hey, why don't you smile? She's like, I don't want to, like, ever. I was like, oh, all right. And like, I just totally, I guess at that point in time, acceptable answer. But like, yeah, I guess it never really dawned on me either that, like some kids don't talk just for the sole purpose that they don't want to, but also too, that would totally shape their whole social experience.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly. So the phrase we like to use is a person's financial situation should not, hopefully we can limit the impact it has on their communication going forward.
Yeah.
So if you think about just normal relationships, school relationships, a chiropractor, you have to have basic functioning communication.
Yeah.
So, and it's much more far reaching than people expect. And speech pathology in a lot of cases is very, I would say it's a close knit community because you don't really know about it unless you have to, right? So getting that word out of kind of what the need is kind of the challenge of ChandlerSpeaks, because a lot of people will say, to be honest, I don't even know what speech therapy is. What do they do?
Yeah.
And I was that same way as well.
Well, that's I was just kind of just thinking along those same lines there. Like when would a parent, I guess, kind of go down the avenue of considering, like, is speech therapy a viable option for what I'm seeing in my child?
And that's obviously going to be a very individualized situation. And so using my example where my son was talking more, I say something's going wrong here. And when it comes to speech pathology, you'll go first to your pediatrician.
Yep.
And your pediatrician, and I'm not saying this in a negative sense, a lot of them will say, well, maybe they'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
And a parent is going to be overwhelmed with that answer. Right. And so what I would encourage is start having uncomfortable conversations with some of your closest friends or family members. Like, have you done this before? Have you dealt with this before? My son or daughter is not talking. Who can I speak to? In my case, I found out about speech therapy because I had just a very open and frank conversation with a coworker of mine who was actually sending his daughter to Holland in Capel, where my daughter goes.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, like, tell me how you dealt with this, because I'm a little bit overwhelmed in terms of I don't even know the next steps.
Yeah.
I'm feeling kind of a failure as a parent because I don't know how to help my child scenario. And so just having an open dialogue, which can be very challenging for some people, and then add the notion of, hey, oh man, that's expensive. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
Like, what's the open avenue? So there's a certain stigma associated with it that again, I would just try to encourage communication across friends, family, and do your research to the extent necessary. So when I got the the note from our pediatrician that they should outgrow it, I approached him and said, "Look, I appreciate you, but I'm going to seek additional opinion. Is that fine? Because they're obviously qualified, but at some point you've got to take the responsibility of your children in your own hands. So there has to be a willingness to do that as well.
It is. I mean, not only in that regard, and not to bring this to chiropractic, but like, you know, God bless the GP, because they see everything.
That's right.
But, you know, and I say this with love, but like it's a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. Yeah. There's, you know, even in like chiropractic, like, here, take a couple of these pills for your back pain. Take 2 of these, call me in the morning, basically kind of thing. We'll see what it's a guess and check sort of thing. And I'm just like, just in my expertise, you know, I do deal in, you know, musculoskeletal. It is pretty black and white. Again, I just can't imagine the multitude of different ways that somebody who would require, or at least have a need for speech pathology, might even present.
Of course,
apart from just that, he's just not talking very much. Like, it just seems like there could be just an innumerable amount of ways that this child could be in front of the GP and have them go, cross fingers, hope they grow out of it.
and statistically speaking, more often than not, they will grow out of it. But there's a large section of the population that,
once you get to the point where you find out, hey, they're not growing out of it, you could have wasted years.
And so in Chandler's case, I was able to get her in speech therapy at 2 years old. She's now 11. So you're talking 9 years of consistent, and she'll probably have more years to go. But in those formidable development years, let's say we didn't catch it till it's 5. That's 3 years of makeup you've got to do.
Yeah, and those, like you said, those are very important years. I just popped into my head. Are you familiar with the story of Napoleon Hill?
I am not.
Do you know who Napoleon Hill is?
I don't.
Okay, so one of the kings of personal development came to prominence around the Great Depression or something like that. But his child was born. Don't quote me exactly on this, but his child was born without ears for all intents and purposes. Like this, like had the stuff on the outside, but no hole to get in. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so again, this was in the 30s. So his doctors were like, yeah, no, he's never going to hear right. And as such, he's never going to speak right. And Napoleon Hill took that as a challenge, basically. But he found out that as he got closer to his son and like literally spoke right by his head, his son would respond to him. So it was that vibratory transmission. And because of Napoleon Hill going, you know, I appreciate your expertise, general practitioner. I don't buy it though. I don't accept it. So like he for all intents and purposes taught his son to hear, and as such speak by talking right next to his head, because there's that vibratory component, because he had all the neurological stuff. He didn't have the hole for the sound to get in. And then as soon as they figured that out, his kid went on to be like a fantastic public speaker. And I think, don't quote me on this part either, but like, I want to say like insurance salesman or something, but simply because like the doctor said like, hey, and nothing against doctors, but like, it's just his father going, yeah, no, I don't accept that diagnosis kind of thing. So it's a wild story.
And the clinicians, GPs, pediatricians, they're at a disadvantage when you're seeing 100 patients a day.
Yep.
And so,
and 98 of them are different.
So I feel for them in that regard.
Yeah.
But I would say, if you're going to have that conversation with your pediatrician, please do so in a respectful manner.
That's fair. So how many kids you got under the umbrella of ChandlerSpeaks?
So right now we have 5 direct service kids, and then we have covered speech therapy for over 700 children over 6 years.
Wow.
And covered over 1,500 sessions. So it's been quite the ride so far.
That's an impressive impact. Do you have a dollar amount on how much you've helped?
Yeah, we have donated inception to date to in excess of $230,000.
That's fantastic. $230,000.
That's right.
Man. At $150 an hour, that's right. That's a couple hours.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Awesome. And so you just got the 2 kids?
I have 3 kids.
3 kids, okay.
Yeah, so I have a 14-year-old Chandler who's 11, and then Devin who's 8.
So 11 puts her in 6th grade?
Going into sixth grade, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, just from straight ignorance, like, is she just in like a regular public school? Or?
Yeah, she's in a regular public school, and she goes to speech therapy 2 times a week there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the approach that we use is the public speech therapist, public school will work on certain developmental issues, and then the private speech therapist will work on other developmental issues.
Okay.
And God bless the public school system, they're under significant resource constraints. And so
they're not in Keller School District, are they?
No, APB. But you have a lot of your speech therapists will see 6 or 7 kids at a time, right?
Dang.
In group settings, which is helpful, but when you need volume, repetition, a combination of art and science, you really need an individual therapist to spend a lot of time. I like to tell the story that Chandler's original speech therapist moved to Lubbock for to be closer to her family. It was a shedding tear moment for us because she became a family member at that point.
I bet, yeah, all that time.
Yeah, exactly. Man. So she'd been with her for 7 years when she decided to move over to
Something tells me it was just as hard for her as it was for you guys.
Absolutely. Because the first speech pathologist, obviously Chandler's like, who is this?
Yeah.
Do they have my best interest in heart? And so, it was a very, there's a learning curve there.
I bet. So just to kind of bring this in, if there's someone listening to this and they're thinking that either hey, my kid might need a speech pathologist, or they do know that they need a speech pathologist, and they also know that it ain't cheap. If they might be a candidate to be under the banner of Chandler Speaks, like, how do people find you?
So that I tell them to go to my website, ChandlerSpeaks.org, and you can learn about the organization there. And then if you want to reach out, I handle all the application process inflow myself. So they can reach me at bmoen@chandlerspeaks.org directly.
Your email is bmoen?
Yes, that's right.
Spell it for them because they're going to spell it wrong.
BMOEN@chandlerspeaks.org. Feel free to reach out to me directly. And if I can't help you, maybe we can get you in contact with the correct resources and go from there. So
that's awesome. And this is, I've done over 100 episodes. This is, and I learned from every single one of these. I started out just as a way I tell people just to use the other side of my brain, and just to give other local business owners or stuff around here kind of a platform. I had zero intention of learning as much as I did from each and every guest that came here, and today is absolutely no different, dude. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I hope with all sincerity that this episode, it gets at least in front of one of the right people that it needs to.
Yes, and that is ultimately the goal for Chandler Speaks to come on episodes like this. Because if you can change one child's life, and I know it sounds like kind of a cliche, but it's really not.
Nope.
Right? If you can change one child's life, then you've done great work in your life. So
and it sounds like you're probably past the one. So might as well just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So that's the goal. Just keep plowing ahead, because speech development issues are always going to be present.
Yeah.
And so whether that's here, because there's hearing, there's speaking, there's
even just the social interaction.
Exactly. So,
and as long as you're going to be on this earth, you're going to have social interaction. And
exactly.
Hell, even the people that are best at it still have a hard time.
Absolutely.
But again, Bryce, dude, I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Guys,
thank you.
As always, man, I say it at the end of every episode, and this is no different. You will learn more here by accident than elsewhere by design, right here on DFW Grit. Be sure to like, share, follow. Check out Chandler Speaks. Email Moen. And we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Thanks, guys.